Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you're an artist, as I said, that paints with many different colors, so
Yeah.
to speak. What inspired you to turn to a darker, grittier project this time?
You know, it's funny. I feel like and with feature films, it's where I get I've seriously tried to write comedies, like full feature-length
comedies, yeah.
and by about page 10, someone dies, and then it just it's downhill from there. And so I've tried to do that a lot, and for some reason, and like right now, for instance, I'm writing a comedy and I'm sticking to it, but. My first few features, that's the way it's been. But the 1491s, the kind of weirdly, I never would have ever thought I would say that I'm a part of an internet kind of sensation, group or whatever. It's ridiculous, but and it just accidentally kind of happened. But with that, I kind of get my comedy out, and with the rest of the guys, they kind of support that. They're there to like not let me kill off the characters and whatever, So they're there to keep me to stick with the comedy, and it makes it easier, and it kind of gets, I get to like, I guess exercise my funny bone a little bit with that group.
So that's been a thread throughout all your dramas. Then throughout all your feature length films has been sort of this drama.
Yeah, but I mean, even
style.
in my feature length dramas, I think that there's a lot of humor in them because I feel with Native people and in our lives, there's tragedy and there's humor and they live together.
Yeah.
And so to honor the reality of that world, I always try to really kind of portray that in my films.
I love that about this particular film. You have characters living on the street, very difficult situation. Where did you first sort of find places for humor in that particular situation?
I think when people are at their lowest, sometimes that's all they have is their sense of humor. And so you find that when you're writing a story about that or you're making a film about that, all of a sudden any little bit of humor is like super funny, and it just magnifies the humor because people want to laugh so much. And so if they find a reason to laugh, then it's that much funnier, So I found it, and I'm not really researching, but just out of my own curiosity, as a human, I guess, I met a few people that lived on the streets and I kind of got to know them. And that's one of the things that struck me that I'd never seen in any film before was no one ever talks about how much fun they're having. They're also dysfunction and there's mental illness and there's alcoholism and substance abuse, but there's also, they're having, some of them, especially within this Native community in Tulsa that I'm talking about, I would notice that they were actually having, there were some beautiful moments and they were laughing with each other and they were kind of like a family. And of course there was pain and everything that goes along with living on the streets, but I wanted to also capture the beauty of it, and the humor.
I heard that Native and non-Native people have reacted differently to that humor in the film. What have you observed?
I mean, I think that's all my films, though. It's like Native humor is just different, and sometimes it's subtle, and whenever because of how the media has portrayed Native people, I feel like non-Indian people go into watching a film, they're ready to be serious. I mean, they're ready for. We're ready. We've got our stoic face on. We've got our cup of coffee, and we are ready to hear about the injustices that have happened to these people. And so they're already geared to kind of be very earnest and just with you in that. And so when you start throwing humor out of them, it's strange, especially in like sad situations. They're going to be thrown back and be like, "Wow, should I be laughing?" And so if there's not enough Indians in the audience to sort of give them the permission to laugh, then they're all laughing under their breath. And, it's really difficult to, and it's hard to gauge if someone likes something unless they're laughing. I remember showing a film. I had a film that I showed in, it was called Barking Water, and I showed it at the Venice Film Festival. And, they're very serious about their film screenings. They bring you in, you have to wear a suit and there's like a spotlight and you go sit down with the audience and you must observe it with the audience, And, we're sitting there and we're watching it, and I remember thinking through the whole movie, not a laugh, not one peep, not a laugh, nothing. And I was like, oh man, like I was telling my producer next to me, I was like elbowing him. I was like, man, they hate this. Like, let's get out of here. And at the end, they all stood up and like the spotlight hit us and they stood up and like gave us a standing ovation. And I realized that they had just really captured or really like they were drawn. They didn't get the humor at all. I mean, and then it was funny because I could see the translations, and so any kind of like subtle Indian slang would like be totally
over their heads.
Just they would translate it so wrong.
Oh, okay.
And so they were drawn to the human and the dramatic story and the love story of the film, you know, and they were like crying and things. So, you know, my films speak to different people in different ways, and that's fine.
We had a Cree writer, Tracy Lindbergh, on the show earlier this year, and she talked about precisely this sort of situation, how Native people are often unfairly seen as stoic, very earnest, lacking in humor. Why do you think that view persists?
Well, you know, obviously through literature, through art, through photography, you know, you look at Edward S. Curtis photos that he kind of captured the West. I mean, you know, they're all very stoic, and he was posing them that way to kind of sell this idea of what an Indian is. And honestly, it's like, you know, if invaders are coming to your territory, you're not going to be smiling. So I'm sure the first impression on Native people were like, wow, they're just grumpy, you know. But you know, our humor, I feel like, has a lot to do with teasing. You know, it's like if we tease you, we like you. So they probably weren't getting teased a lot, you know, because I don't think they get not many of them liked many of them. So
you mentioned earlier that humor is also a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
In a lot of communities. How so? How have you seen that play out on the streets in Tulsa when you were doing your research?
You know, I mean, you go down the street, and you know it's a large homeless community, and the area that I shot the film in, and a lot of the people that live on the street are in my film, you know, and the area that I shot the film in, you can drive down there today, and you'll see people, and you'll see large groups of people, and you're going to see people like laughing, and you're going to see people trying to survive, you know, and they all, once you get to know them and open your eyes to their world, I mean, that's the thing that really blew me away about this film is I thought that I was someone that saw them on the street and thought, oh, that, you know, I feel for them. I have empathy and I feel for them. But it wasn't until I really got to know them and talk to them and have conversations with them and ask them about their world that I realized that once they opened their world to me, then I realized like what their world was, and it is survival, and it's beautiful, and there is humor, and they're just trying to, you know, survive.
Is that something you hadn't seen portrayed in film very much, the humanity of people on the streets?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can't think of any film that I've seen it in. Maybe documentaries, but you know, and I also one of the things that with my films is I love making films that I feel like would not be made unless I made them. You know, that's something that I take pride in.
You said something earlier, Sturgeon, that I think is really important. You want to make films that you feel like only you could make.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you ever felt that way about a project? Like, this is mine to give to the world and sort of uniquely mine?
As soon as I decided to start making films about where I'm from, you know, it was like, because I mean, literally the people that I'm from, the language that they speak, everything, it's only a small area in Oklahoma, you know, and that's the only place that we exist. So to be able to make any films from that area and them to, you know, to reach Canada, that's amazing to me. And just, you know, and for the most part, it's always been me trying to hold up a mirror to my community and say, hey, look, someone thinks that this community is really important, or these songs are really important, or this language is really important, or these people are really important. And maybe have them, young people, kind of take pride in themselves and also be proud of who they are and do work and, you know, keep stuff going and kind of learning. So
that's great. Thanks, Sterlin.
Thank you.